This is a Megaminx, and I'm going to turn it into an antiprism. Now, antiprisms are cool because if they touch regular prisms, they annihilate. I have to be delicate. I only have so many of these left. Now, before I got started on this puzzle, there was a little bit of preparation work that needed to be done. Firstly, I had to tighten everything, as I always do, but I also had to cut the top and the bottom layers off. These layers were going to be baby faces, and that just means it's a very, very thin layer that doesn't have any stickers on the edges, but it still turns like a regular layer. I like the look of it because it gives a more seamless and clean look to the final result of the puzzle. Now, there are 10 corners all the way around, and each one of them is going to become a face. Now, if I draw a line from this point here, to this point here, to this point here, and then back again, that area that we cut off will be one triangular face. Now, I wanted to build something bigger. I had a really cool idea for like a double pentagonal pyramid or something like that, but I only have so much epoxy sculpt right now, and it's not enough to do a project like that, so I'm revisiting an old one. So the next step in the build process is to take it back over to the bandsaw and cut all 10 of these faces off. There's no point using angles if you can do it all by eye. If you can do it all by eye. How did I do it this last time? This point here to this point here. I need to think about this for a second.
A few moments later.
I don't know what angle that is, but it looks right, so it'll work. Now that is what we call a clean cut. Not bad at all. And now the goal was to replicate this cut on all the other corners, which shouldn't be that difficult. Why do I suck? Alright, well there's rare as an African elephant and I've just destroyed one. Lined it up right and everything. Here's what I did. This line here, it follows the cut line and it comes to this point here. This line is actually cut at the bottom. So that's how it was lined up to cut. And when I did this one, I was cutting it from the top. It's okay though. I made another one.
Yeah, that is what I need.
Alright, that'll do. Now that I was armed with a visual reference as well as concentration, I cut off the remaining corners. Alright, well that didn't go as planned, but there it is, the shape is done. I disassembled everything and then I filled all the pieces with epoxy sculpt. And after everything was hardened, this is what it looked like. Well, I can certainly say it's not the best fill job I've ever done, but it'll work. Now you can see I got some bits sticking out here, and luckily I had an entire tray of spare pieces. Now I've done a test sand on this face here, and it looks like I'm going to have to sand just a little bit deeper than I initially expected. Now I consulted the original pictures of the first one that I built. This area up here does not come to a single point. It's actually slightly fat across the top. That means that I had to sink this part of the face down a little more, and that's probably because this little piece in here is not perfectly flat and I can't extend that little bit in there. Doing test faces to visualize the final result of a puzzle is actually a really important part of the building process. I usually sand at least one face to almost completion just so I can get an idea of what the cut lines and the oilsing looks like and just get a feel of what the final result is going to be.
So this is the face that I'm currently sanding, and you can see these little lines all the way around. Let me take this mask off.
Now if I flip it over to the other side, you'll be able to see those lines again. Now all of those lines bottom out at a single surface. Now if I actually get a piece from a Megaminx, these are the lines and all these little divots here. They are all in line with each other, so there's actually a plane that they all bottom out at. I want to sand down to that level all the way around here. Now, when I hit it on one, I'm going to have to pay very close attention to hitting it on the others. Because if you hit it on one, that means that the whole face is slightly sloped towards that area. That is more like it. Sure as hell has turned out better than I expected it would. Not bad, huh? Now that everything was pretty much where I wanted it to be, I still had to repair all of the centerpieces, and so I disassembled everything and I began extending all of those pieces. This step is usually paired with a round of sanding so that I can fit all of the pieces back together. So I rounded over all the pieces and I reassembled everything with the intent of taking it over to my belt sander, but there was an issue. Ooh. Okay. Well, I don't have a drive belt anymore. After using some of the patrons' money to buy another drive belt, I reassembled the belt sander, and then I checked it to make sure everything was turning properly. Now that everything was running smoothly, I could start sanding the puzzle down. Now I had already sanded all of the faces to pretty much where I wanted them to be, I just had to sand down all of the high spots and then tweak all of those faces. It's really hard to get the shape just right. I have to overshoot just at the tip here a little bit and then keep this perfectly to the line, but it's coming together slowly. Once I finish all of these faces here, I'm gonna take the top and the bottom face and then I'm gonna round them over to meet up with this line. I'm gonna get this all done in one step, so this should be completely sanded by the time I'm done.
I can't wait to get the soundproofing up. Look at all of the highlights. There and there and there and there and there and everywhere.
I sanded down the remaining faces on the outside of the puzzle and I was pretty happy with all of those. Now I wanted a slight rounding on the top and the bottom faces, and so I rolled them slightly as I was sanding them on the belt sander, and this gave a really nice subtle curve on the edges of the face. Now it's very easy to do this, but it's very hard to get it done uniformly, and so there was a lot of sanding after the fact to try and refine the shape and make it look all symmetrical. I'm trying to blend all of these kind of curves together so that it's a nice flat baby face on the top and the bottom. Now you might be wondering why I'm not just cutting straight across. The truth is, I like this shape more, and it's harder to make this shape, and I would prefer to do something that is harder than do something that I've done 50 times before. Alright, I've jumped ahead a little bit, allow me to explain. I sanded everything down. Oh my god, the hard lighting. At some point in my life I turned into a Far Cry character, I don't know how. I want to talk about how I deal with having holes in centerpieces. It's actually a really big annoyance of mine. I'm going to use a hole punch to punch out some small pieces of sticky note that I'm going to put on the screw heads of all of these 10 centerpieces. Now the reason I'm doing that is because I want to fill all of those pieces with epoxy sculpt, but I don't want to just stuff it in there, otherwise it'll bite onto the head of the screw, and then when you go to make a turn, you're actually unscrewing the face, and it's a bad thing, don't do it. After I'd finished filling all of the centers, I used a blade to carve off any of the excess, and then I sanded all of the centers down so that I could paint everything black. So these are the only 3 pictures I have of the original finished color scheme for this puzzle. I know the bottom face is gray, but other than that, I'm gonna have to remake it up as I go along. Should not be too difficult, provided I have enough colors to choose from here. This is the last of my white sticker vinyl. You can see I've practiced my signature on it a few times. This is all I have left, and so I have to put in an order for some more, which reminds me to thank all of my patron supporters of this channel for sending me a couple bucks every month so that I can buy sticker vinyl or epoxy sculpt or base puzzles for new and more interesting modifications. I'm trying to do more interesting stuff. I don't just want to repeat all of the old stuff. You know, apart from this puzzle right now, which is a blatant copy of something that I did a couple of years ago, but that's beside the point. If you are a patron of the channel, you get your name at the end of the video, and also you don't have to hear an ad about Raid Shadow Legends, and as far as I'm concerned, that is a perk. And after I'd finished cutting all of the stickers, here it is, the puzzle is finally done. So there you have it, the puzzle is done, and doesn't it look fantastic? You can see we've got some shape-shifting, and if I scramble it up, it looks incredible. Look at all those colors sticking out in all those different directions. I love shape-shifting puzzles. Now, something that I didn't mention during this build, but I'll touch on it now, is that there are no extensions for this modification, so it's just cut and fill. So if you've done a few 3x3 mods and you're looking for an extra challenge, why not give this puzzle a try? And if you do end up building one, take a picture and tag me on Instagram. I'd love to see it. The Pentagonal Antiprism is one of those shapes that just fits really nicely onto a dodecahedral base puzzle, and it kind of makes me wonder what would happen if you did this same modification but with a Gigaminx. Might have to try that sometime. But anyways, I hope you guys like this puzzle and hope you guys like this video. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see y'all next time.
Castles made of sand fall in the sea eventually.